Marines are being deployed to the Los Angeles area after a wave of immigration protests swept the city over the weekend. Around 500 active duty troops from 29 Palms are now being sent to protect federal buildings in a move that's escalating tensions between state and federal authorities. The decision made over Governor Gavin Newsom's objections comes after a series of immigration raids sparked citywide unrest and fresh political fire. For more, we're joined by Oz Sultan from Sultan Interactive Group. Oz, talk to us about the significance of Marines now being deployed instead of just relying solely on local law enforcement.
So what we've done, we've almost created a maritime situation here. You know, we saw similar things happen during the LA fires where the governor said, well, I'm sorry, you can't bring these fire trucks in because they don't meet California emissions guidelines. And as we see here, well, there's a lot of emissions. But the Marines coming in is something that really hasn't happened in a couple decades in the United States. We've got, the National Guard at most of your federal buildings, as well as I think state office buildings. But because nothing has really been done here by the mayor as well as the governor in this case, it's kind of had to escalate. We've had police officers being attacked by large cinder blocks being thrown off of bridges. It's a bit of chaos over there.
Yeah, so how has Governor Newsom responded to the federal action?
He's honestly more offended that the federal action happened than the chaos that's ensuing in Los Angeles right now, simply due to the response to ICE activity. And it's challenging. At the same point in time, we're finding out that there's Democratic groups as well as CCP funded groups that are pushing behind some of these riot activities. And then inside the midst of all of this, you've got Antifa and the same type of looting that we saw during the COVID protests for BLM in New York City. So, not wanting Los Angeles to turn into the little rubble that New York turned into after those riots, I think it was sensible to bring, the National Guard and the Marines in. The question is just kind of what kind of a precedent does this set for bad policies in California and what's, going to happen next?
Let's hear from the mayor.
We do not want to play into the administration's hands. We're working with officials, we're organizing resources, but what we're seeing in Los Angeles is chaos that is provoked by the administration. When you raid Home Depot and workplaces, when you tear parents and children apart, and when you run armored caravans through our streets, you cause fear and you cause panic.
I think anyone who remembers those massive wildfires in California and Los Angeles remember there's not much love lost between the mayor of Los Angeles and the president of the United States. But does she have a point? Is this a situation which perhaps has gone too far?
Well, the question is simply this, why couldn't they handle it? Why has she intervened with the police, with LAPD to tell them to stand down in many occasions? And why is this chaos being allowed to run rampant? Why is there so much mismanagement inside of this process that really promulgated, the Trump administration to say, hey, we're getting involved? It's one thing to sit there and say that, we've got an issue with ICE. It's another thing to allow the city to fall to ruins just as a response protesting ICE. This benefits no one. And honestly, at the end of the day, because most of this is happening in downtown LA, this is disenfranchising more minorities than, that are legal citizens, right? Than the illegals that you're trying to remove from this ecosystem.
And what actually triggered the immigration protests over the weekend? Obviously it's about ICE, but what was the trigger?
So you had a couple of ICE raids, and what they are doing is they are going into workplaces where you have illegals, but the mainstay of the illegals that they're going after to begin with are ones that have felony charges or some other charges that were pending outside of the United States or inside of the United States for them. At the same point in time, it's coming here illegally and being here illegally is a crime. So there's a sort of catch-22 in between how I think some of these Democrat politicians see, well, you're here, we should have something for you, as opposed to what the law is, which is if you're here illegally, well, you should be returned to where you came from. That's notwithstanding the billions of dollars that have been spent on illegals by California without really a lot of integration for these folks becoming Americans. And at the end of the day, you know, when you're seeing Mexican flags being waved, American flags being burned, police having bricks thrown on them, and a variety of other things, it doesn't really say we're supporting America. It says we're supporting this ideal for foreigners, which, by the way, we don't have any path to citizenship, and nor has any Democrat advanced the path to citizenship for, but we just don't want them going anywhere.
How's the public reacting to the presence of, I guess, military forces on US soil?
It's mixed. You know, there are Alex Blakian, who is a candidate, or was a candidate for Congress in Schiff's seat, who's in Glendale, was commenting that Glendale has now agreed to stop cooperating with ICE authorities. And so Antifa and some of these protesters aren't going to take down Glendale. But it seems that the protests are really pushed by groups that are saying, unless the police say they're not going to have anything to do with ICE, we're going to commit more havoc and we're going to create more chaos. And I don't think that this is really like a policy point that, you know, it's Americans versus non-Americans. And how does this help anyone at the end of the day if you're letting the city burn?
All right, we'll leave it there for now. Oz Sultan, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.